I have done like 10 takes of this, 20 takes of this. I don't know how many. I'm tired of it. I want to finish this recording once and for all. So, welcome to a tutorial on how to hack RainWorld. I'm going to go through the tools that we're using. I'm going to go through the basic workflow, and I'll show you one simple example on how to hack the game. If there's anything you're trying to do and you get stuck after watching this video, feel free to leave a comment. If I have some time, I'll look into it and either show you how to do it in another video or just reply and tell you where to find the code that you're looking for. So one thing we're going to need is dnSpy. It's an app that allows you to convert the machine code that the computer reads when you're playing the game and turn it into something readable that someone that's a programmer would actually write. In this case, the creator of the game, his code is what we'll be looking at. So download this, put it somewhere, find your RainWorld installation folder thing. Now open up dnSpy, which you can do by double clicking the dnSpy.exe inside the folder that you've installed it in, and you'll see something like this. When you see this, just click File, click Open, go to your RainWorld installation folder, click RainWorld_data, Managed, and double click on assembly-c#.dll. Now we've loaded the machine code file that contains all the code in the game. The fun thing about Unity is that unless the developer puts some effort into it, the code that's in there is still readable if you convert it back. So if we click, for example, on food meter here under HUD, we can see all kinds of code related to the displaying of the food meter on the bottom left when you're playing the game. Now this code that we can see right here is what the creator of the game actually wrote. If we click this, now we see what's actually inside the file that we just opened. Now the translation is one way. So we can change this part of the code because this is what we've loaded. And if we do that, we don't need to translate. If we try to change this part of the code, before translating it to machine language, then we have to do an extra step to convert this back into machine language so it knows what it should look like. This is an issue because the guy that made this game had a huge project with tons of files and graphics and things in a specific way. And if we do not have the exact same setup, then whatever we change here won't be able to be converted to the machine language because we're missing some information that allows it to do that. So we can use this as a reference, but we cannot use it to actually change the code. Now there are some exceptions in cases where the file has all the info it needs within itself, but more often than not you'll run into issues. So there was this guy on Reddit, his name is Dark Acheron Sunset, and he said, I only ever succeeded in changing Slugcat's gravity, and that made his head not connect to his body, and he kinda couldn't move at all. So let's see what we can do about gravity. So now that you've opened this file, we have to look for something that has to do with gravity, or the player, and then find gravity when we find the player. Either way works. It doesn't matter how you work, as long as you're trying to explore and learn and tinker with the stuff that you can find inside of this. So I can spoil for you right now that all these yellow texts, they're not relevant for our goal of changing gravity. Most of these have something to do with menu, music, sounds, the cosmetic graphics of the lizard and the tribes in the game, and spoiler, something to do with the end of the game and some other things. All the actual game logic is inside this braces thing that has no name. So we go into this, there's two things we can do. We can either click this magnifying glass and search for gravity, which I've done before. Or we can look for the player first and see if we can find gravity that way. So I'm gonna do it by finding the player first, because before I've already done it the other way, even though you haven't seen it, but I don't care. Okay, so the player is a slug cat, is a player, is a thing. So the name that's most likely to be found in here is either player or creature or physical object or something. And this is something where you just have to be imaginative. You have to look around, try and find what you're looking for. And there's no trick. I can't tell you what the name is if I haven't looked in there myself, because I don't know what the creator used as the name. So I'll keep going, and eventually we'll come across player. Okay, so the creator created a class, an object called player, which holds information about specifically our slug cat. So for example, allow roll, air in lungs. These purple things are all attributes of the object. So acceleration is an attribute of our slug cat. And it can be set, and some code reads it. So it's like, what is your acceleration, player? And then does something with that, like set your speed based on your acceleration. There are other attributes here that have custom functions to get or set their value. So for example, if I click on sneak, here you can see that it is a normal attribute. It's a float, which is the exact same thing that acceleration is. But if you try to read it, it executes this little bit of extra code. So where acceleration might be 0.3 and you read it and you get 0.3, with sneak it might be 0.3, but when you get it, you actually get this calculation that determines what your actual sneak is. And in this case, that's because it's not based on the sneak variable in itself. It's based off of priv sneak and submersion, right? So this attribute sneak is not actually an attribute by itself. It's a combination of attributes and some calculations. Then we have the orange text here. Those are functions. So for example, you have jump here. So when you press jump button, this actually gets executed, and this is what determines how you move when you press the jump button. It's all interesting because you can change it, but this is not what we're looking for. We're looking for gravity. Now I don't know about you, but I didn't see any gravity stuff in here. So what I'm gonna do is look up this, the start of player, and I'll see that player extends creature. So that's what this column is. It says that player is a creature. So anything that's inside of creature is also inside of player, even if you don't see it in this list on the left. So if I click creature and open that up, I can see more functions, but I don't see attributes, and I want to find the gravity attribute. So I can see that creature is a physical object. So if I click this, I get physical objects, and if I open that one here, I can go and look around, and I'll find G. So what is G? Is G gravity? I'm not sure. And if we look up, hey, we found gravity. And so there, where we'll actually see that if you try to set gravity, you're actually setting the G value. So the G value is your personal gravity. And if people are trying to find out how heavy gravity should affect you, and they try to read this number, what they'll actually get is your personal gravity times the room gravity. So apparently rooms have their own gravity, which combines with your natural gravity, right? So we want to change this. So how do we do that? First of all, we need to find out where this value is set for our player. So what we can do is right click this, click analyze, and then we'll see gravity here at the bottom, and we can see for both the get and the set which objects use it and which objects are used by our functions here. In this case, we want to change gravity, so we want to know which objects use the set of gravity. So we can click set, we can click used by, and we'll see a big list. Now this makes sense, so apparently every creature has its own personal gravity. So we have the centipede, big eel, daddy longlegs, fly, garbage worm, even a karma flower has gravity apparently. Lizards, obviously. But also the player is in there. So if we double click that one, we get led straight to the point where the gravity is set for the player. And apparently it's done in the CTOR function, which is the constructor, which is the code that gets executed as soon as you create a new player object. It's not really necessary to know this. If you just thought it was just another function, that would be fine as well. Just know that as soon as player exists, that means that this function has been called. All the other ones, the orange ones on the left, are optional. Like, they're likely used because the creator put them in there, but they're not mandatory, whereas the CTOR function kind of is. And you can leave it empty, so some objects won't have anything in there, but most of the times there will be something in there, like in this case with player. So we have gravity equals 0.9, and we want to change that. So how do we do that? If you remember, I told you you do not want to edit the code in here, because this is the original code before translating to machine code, and we don't have the entire game project to be able to put everything back together. But what we can do is right click this and click edit IL instructions, and what you see now is the machine code, and the 3 lines are highlighted, and those are the lines that correspond exactly to the code that I selected in the original view. So if you look at the original, where it said base.gravity equals 0.9f, if I show this screen again, you can see in the middle of our highlighted part it says 0.9. And below that it says set gravity. So this is the exact same part as we just saw before. And we want to change this. So let's say I want to reduce gravity for our player, make it 9 times weaker. So just change the number, click OK. Now our code will update. And you can see now it says 0.1f. But because we changed it in the machine code part, the change is already in the file. We don't have to do any translation anymore. So now we can save it by going to File, Save Module, press OK. And we have our reduced gravity. So now if we log into the game, you should be able to see that our player can jump really high and falls down way slower than he used to. So I'll start up the game. And you can already tell in our little hibernation chamber that the jump up seems relatively similar, but he falls down way slower. And that effect gets more pronounced up here because you can basically, you can almost fly, looks like. I do a charge jump, I hit something. And if we go up, you can see that other creatures are not affected by it because we only edited in the player object. So all players would be affected by this, but not the monsters. Now I think I'm almost there. Let's go right. There's always, this is horrible. There's always a lizard hiding out in this area to the right of this one. Like at the end of this hallway, or hallway passageway, I guess. There it is. So there's our lizard, and as you can see, it does not have the same gravity as we do. Like we can fly all the way up here if we want. Lizard can't do crap. So this is the basics. And I've showed you how to change gravity for a specific creature. Of course, you can do the exact same thing for the others. So let's make it more fair for the green lizard, just because I'm gonna be a dick. So this time we'll do it the other way around. Instead of going through the player and seeing what the player is, creature, what the creature is, physical object, and see if gravity is anywhere in there, we're going to just search for gravity. So we open our search, type gravity. Of course, if the creator of the game didn't call it gravity, we wouldn't find anything. So if you don't know what to do, always look through the list manually on the left. Don't rely on the search too much, because otherwise you're just gonna get stuck because you can't find what you're looking for with the exact wording you're using. Now, what we're looking for was lizard, right? Because I want to see the green lizard kind of like fly around. So here we have lizard, apply gravity. And we can look at that one, because if that says no, we can just make gravity turn off for the lizard completely. And I think this is something different. I think this is not literally related to gravity. I'm not sure. So let's just look a little bit further. And if we don't find anything in here, we'll just use what knowledge we gathered from our player, which is the CTOR function had our gravity logic. So if we go to the lizard and go to the same function, we'll find the exact same code in there. So what we should be able to do is edit this. And again, the highlighted part shows the actual line of code where we're trying to edit. And we'll reduce it by 9. By a factor of 9, sorry. And we'll save the module. And lizard should be in low grav now as well. Now, some lizards crawl across walls, so I think it won't affect them all the time. But I think that green lizard from the beginning should now be visibly altered gravity-wise. Of course, another thing you can do is change the force that our slugcat jumps with. And this is a tiny bit harder to do because of the way the guy made the game. And the behavior is different because the gravity will be the same. You'll just jump a lot faster and higher. That's something I can show in another video if people want to see that. Let's see. I guess I'll just go to the same area and see if that lizard knows how to jump in low grav. Because it's not turned off, so maybe he'll just stay on the ground and just float a bit. Like right off the ground itself. There it is. So now if it tries to catch us, let's see what it can do. Oh, it was crawling up a bit. Oh no, it's gonna go for us. As you can see, in the case of the lizard, it's not working actually. So this is interesting because that means that there's some other place in the code where lizards get their gravity altered somehow. So that's fine. We can exit. So now you've already noticed one problem, that the exact same change for one creature does not necessarily result in the exact same change for another one. So we can analyze this gravity again, set use by like we did before, look for the lizard, and as we can see, there's lizard.ctor, which you just edited, but there's also lizard.update. And if you go here, look, you see that, that's gravity being changed again. So apparently it's setting the gravity back like 1 jillion times. What we're gonna do is edit those as well. And then eventually we should have taken care of all of those cases. And what we can do is Control F, type gravity in here, and we'll be able to see all mentions of gravity in this code. I think that's all of it. So if we save it now, we should be able to see the lizard with reduced gravity for real this time. So this is one of the actual examples where what you're trying to do doesn't work out and you have to start experimenting and looking around and tinkering with the code, because oftentimes you don't know what the creator of the game was thinking. So even though you might see jump speed in one file, it doesn't actually mean anything. It could be that it's not even used. It could be that it's used elsewhere for something completely different than what you're expecting. Like with the lizard, the original gravity is not used actually at all, because every time the lizard gets an update, which is pretty much like 60 times a second, I think, then its gravity gets reset in the other code that we saw, which means that the original CTOR gravity setting has 0 impact. Okay, so here we have our bigger lizard. Let's see if it's gonna try and get us. Is it gonna go for us? I don't know. No, it's gonna run away. Okay, let's go visit the other one then, unless this one wants to eat us now. I think it does. And you can already kind of see that it's like swimming in a way, instead of crawling across the screen. And that's of course because gravity has lowered. So they have the capability of... oh, okay, there, you can see it now, it's working. But again, you can see that he was falling down and it happened faster than I would expect the gravity to work. So maybe there's even another spot where gravity gets reset for the lizard, right? But that all doesn't matter. Like, we've seen it kind of work. The lizard floated away. That was what we were trying to do. Mission accomplished. Slugcat gravity, lizard gravity. There's a bunch of other things that you can do like this. You can change how much food you get from eating something, how fast creatures are, how big they are. For example, for lizards, if you go to lizard breed parameters and click that, then you can see, let's see, over here in lizardbreeds.breed template, actually, you can see all the attributes of lizards being set for each type of lizard. So pink lizard has its own speed, its own movement capabilities, its own aggressiveness and all that stuff, its own size. Same for the green lizard, for the black lizard, for the blue lizard. So you can change every lizard individually if you wanted to in this part. Again, don't change this, right click it, edit IL instructions. You'll see the highlighted part with the number that's corresponding to that number you were trying to change, 1.7. And you just change it, you press OK, and then you save the file. Save module, OK. So that's a very basic instruction on how to edit some simple stuff in RainWorld using this tool. If you have any questions or requests for like a video on how to change something more complex, feel free to ask for it. I'll see if I can either reply and tell you how to do it, or if I can make another video. And I wish you a lot of fun trying to experiment, and thanks for watching.